What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar with C-Zar Gets Crypto, and we are talking about KASPA yet again. What a day, man. What like a 24-hour period. I know it doesn't look like a lot, but for any of you degenerates out there, which I know there are plenty, I'm not calling the KASPA holders, I just mean in the crypto space, right? It's a term of endearment. Don't get offended. I hope I didn't offend anybody, but if I did, you're soft. No, but anyways, on the 4 hour here, very bullish RSI. Very, very bullish RSI. Lower high, though. Bearish divergence. Volume's dying off as you're making this move up. I don't like it. I do think you're coming near the end of your move up. You're at an area that would make sense. And yes, I'm a little bit bearish on it right now. I've been bullish since about, what day was it? It was back. Right, I've been bullish since this day. And now, finally, again, I am C-Zar the bear. No longer C-Zar the bull. Looking at this thing on a weekly basis, you've had. Let's actually go to the all-time chart here. Yeah, hey, look, it's already got the fib basis pulled up for me. From top to bottom, you're at your 1618. It's the golden extension in itself. Okay. Totally normal area to pull back from. If you were to pull back, where would you go? Well, here you are sitting at about 9.5 cents now. Yesterday you went back and checked your 1414. I think you could pull back all the way to your 1272. You might even have the potential to pull back to your 886 or somewhere around this area, if not like at your previous high here. But prices around, or I should say at least below 4.5 cents and above 3.5 cents could be at play here. If not, because of how resilient this thing's been, I would leave the door open. It's less common, but it is common enough to bounce off your 1272 if you're going to continue to build in the extensions. Generally, though, when you reject an expected area of the extended zone, which would be, again, somewhere between this 1272 and the 1618, this is like your area of expectations whenever you're making your strides into the extensions. When you reject this, it's very, 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 very extremely common to bounce off your 886. You've bounced off your 786 already. You didn't really, I guess you bounced off your 886 a little bit right over here. It wouldn't be crazy. It wouldn't really be crazy. But you did bounce off your 100 level right there already. So if you were to bounce off your 1272, I don't normally call for that. I really don't normally call for that. But just because this is KASPA and it is the way that this chart looks right now, I will give it to you. I do think that maybe this 6 cent area could hold. Maybe. Let's see if there's anything else that agrees with that. We're looking at the daily on the RSI. Very overbought, you guys. Very, very overbought. So strong. You're at like almost at a 95. That's ridiculous shit right there, man. But this was your all-time high in the RSI, right? Oh, I guess it wasn't. No, you've gone higher before. But long story short, it's an area, you're definitely at an area that you've topped off before. You've actually been up in this area once, twice, 3 times before, got close on a 4th time. If you wanted to, you could say this was your 5th time, maybe 4th time in this area, right? And every time that you've done that before, every time that you've been in this area, here, that was a relative top. Okay, let's actually look at this. Technically, on this day here, that was right here, you did continue to go higher. You actually went phenomenally higher. How much higher did you go? From a closing, that's not the right point. From a closing point here, you went up 72% and then dropped. Even if you sold at the closing point and you missed this pump of 72%, you still could have caught a 47% to a maybe even a 41% drop, if you had your buy orders set. That was the first time up here. The second time up here, again, near a top where you saw a more kind of major from top to bottom, you saw a more major correction of about 56%. And of course, later you saw a bigger drop. Maybe we get that, maybe we don't. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm more trying to talk about the immediate stuff. Over here, whenever you touch this line also, you were right here. From top to bottom, you dropped 38%, close to 40%. Top to bottom here, you actually dropped a lot more. This was a 72% drop. I've analyzed this chart enough to know that was a 72% drop. And that was the highest reading you had in your RSI on the daily ever. And that top literally came in the day of the top. Here you are now at the top where you've had at a minimum of a 38% rejection every single time. Could you go a little bit higher? Absolutely you could. Absolutely you could. But you're already at your 1618. If you were to go higher, I wouldn't think you're sitting at about 9.4 cents now. It's like it's hearing me. Maybe you could go up here, but I really don't expect that. If we look at the 4 hour, again, you've been very overbought for a while now, which is okay. You're not even like very overbought, but you've been hot. You've been very. If you guys have been holding this thing and watching this thing, you've been hot. You bounced off your overbought zone. Very nice to see. You have this bearish divergence now though, and you're at your 1618. Like it after yesterday's kind of mayhem too. Like this could have been a warning. I know it looks bullish with this bounce, but again, if we go to CAS USD on KuCoin, there's no volume to follow through with this bounce. That should be a little bit concerning, at least a little bit concerning. Can we take fibs that would make sense from anything else? Top to bottom here, not really. I mean, it's probably in the threes to some degree, but let's just see top to bottom here. 2272 extension. Hey, after bouncing off here, that's a common move right there too. Yeah, man. I don't know. Very, very strong. I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't be surprised if you found support at 6 cents. But be aware, you guys. Be completely aware that a price below 6 cents, even all the way below 4 cents, is still possible. We have seen... Sorry, I'm scratching my beard. It's so itchy right now. We've seen a 74% drop from top to low here. A 74% drop, not including the scam wicks, from top to low here. A 52% or 57% drop, and then a 72% drop. A drop down to the 886 from this top to low would be within that realm of possibilities, 63%. 3 out of 4 drops, significant drops before, have been greater than 70%. One of them was 57%, which this is still pretty close to. And again, rejecting your 1618, coming back to your 886 is a very common thing to do. It really is a very common thing to do. You had your nice move up. If we act like this is an ascending triangle, which I think it was, we put this at the point of break. You exceeded your measure move, man. Like this thing is definitely strong, but it's at a point where it would make sense to turn around. Now, if you're gung-ho about this thing and you don't want to sell, that's cool. That's okay. I'm not advocating sell. But and this isn't financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not really advocating anything. But what I wouldn't advocate for, especially, is buying. If you're buying here, you're FOMOing at the top after a tremendous run, 45% up in a week. Very tremendous run in less than a week, actually. But it's probably a relatively good area. It would make sense to come down. And the expectation at the moment, I would say, is around this line, the 1272 at the 618, or the 12 at the 6 cent level at the 1272 there. If we take this top to this bottom here, you've also got your 1272 from this one right there as well. There's multiple fibs lining up with that. From the top to this bottom here, you also have your 1272 and your 1414 in that area. So it really, just adding to the idea, there's a lot of significance in this area. And being that this thing has been overall pretty resilient, you've already bounced off your 786 and your 0.1 here, or your not 0.1, your 100. I would give it to you. I wouldn't normally call for this. I generally, when you see this kind of stuff, I would call for a move that takes you all the way back to the 886. But I've learned my lesson with this thing. I think putting the 1272 on the radar is acceptable. If you were to drop to 6 cents from high to low, that's a 39% drop. And if you're not on board with the idea that we could see a more dramatic drop like we've seen in these like bigger corrections, okay, cool. Then at least go back, like hang out with me on this idea of the RSI. Anytime that we've been this high, this overbought in the RSI, which has been once, twice, 3, 4, maybe 5 times, right? If you don't want to call it 5 times, call it 3 times. But regardless of how you want to count it, we've seen 38% drop at a minimum, and I mean technically at the maximum we've seen a 72% drop, but in the more immediate term, how much did this drop? Like from the immediate high to low. That was a 39% drop. I saw it real quick. Okay, 35.5% drop. So I guess that was the smallest one, but overall it did go lower. You know, everything else was around 40%, and that would be right around 40%, right around your 1272 at an area in the RSI where you've rejected plenty of time seeing that exact kind of move. So overall, that would still be constructive. Higher low, still above this area that you broke out. And a higher low is nothing to be ashamed of. It gives everybody an opportunity who wanted to buy at lower prices an opportunity to buy there. I might even load up on this thing if it does that, but I think that's all I got to say, man. I think I've said my piece. I don't have anything else to say. For those of you that are bullish because the chart looks like this right now, be cautious, man. I advise caution, if anything. I wouldn't advise buying here. It looks bullish, but remember, you've been overbought on your 4-hour for quite a while. You've been hot for a minute, man. I mean, have you ever been this consistently overbought? Over here, kind of. What were you doing over here? You had a pretty big drop, didn't you? Top to bottom, 31%. I'm calling for 8% more than that, you know? And then you went up a little higher and then dropped, had a bigger drop, whatever. Maybe it doesn't go as far as I'm thinking, but it wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense to me, really, to not find a low at that 1272. I really think I think that's what we would do. Anyways, I'm just rambling at this point. If you like the video, leave a thumbs up. Subscribe to see more. Fantastic run. It's topping off at an area that would be normal to top off at. If it goes up more, then great, great. But it's overdue. It's overdue for some kind of correction. So I think we're going to see it now. I think this was not the bullish saving grace that we were looking for. I think it's actually a warning. I think it was a warning for the things to come. And it wouldn't surprise me if we actually inevitably went lower than this. The previous area where you kind of had a shelf, a support zone was right here, and that's at like 6.5 cents. So I mean, maybe that was your resistance zone, actually, not support. Maybe you do find the support at about 6 cents again. But anyways, I digress. I'm just repeating myself. So if you like the video, thumbs ups are appreciated. And if you didn't like the video, just tell me about it in the comments. All right, take care. Bye-bye.